The Xbox 360 is dead. On July 29th, 2024, the Xbox 360 marketplace shut down for good, taking nearly 20 years of gaming history with it. Thousands of classic games, many exclusive to the Xbox 360 store, are now, for the most part, gone forever. Today, I'm not going to be looking at those games. As much as I'd love to just play Naughty Bear or Halo 3 or something to cash in on some sweet nostalgia, I think some of the most interesting digital games ever released are the ones that got delisted before the Xbox 360 store actually shut down. You could almost consider these games to be sort of double delisted. The only way to play them now is to have purchased them with your Xbox account back when they were available, and in some cases that goes as far back as 18 years ago. So if you didn't download them then, you simply cannot play them now. I'd go as far as to say they're probably some of the most inaccessible games currently in existence. So I decided to arm myself with the cheapest HDMI capture card I could find and a specially modified Xbox 360 so that you and I can explore some obscure, neglected, and damn near lost Xbox 360 games. We're going to be checking out some delisted arcade games, some indie games, and in some cases, things that are definitely not games at all. Let's begin. Before we continue, I would like to point out that this video was sponsored by the big guys over at Factor. Factor makes the act of eating food easier than it literally ever has been by delivering fresh, never frozen meals right to your doorstep. Whether you're looking for entire delicious meals or stuff like breakfast, smoothies, and juices, Factor is going to be cheaper and better tasting than takeout every time. There's a menu of 35 different options with more than 60 add-ons every week, and you won't have to waste a moment prepping, cooking, or cleaning up any of them. Just heat that dang, and then eat that dang. For me personally, Factor takes a lot of the guesswork out of clean eating and makes it no sweat to keep track of what I'm actually consuming. That I genuinely think is yummy. It's just really good. So what are you waiting for? Head to factor75.com or click on the link below and use code RATLOBBER50 to get 50% off your first Factor box and 20% off your next month of orders. That's code RATLOBBER50 at factor75.com to get 50% off your first order and 20% off your next month of orders. Go try it out. It's good. Thank you again to Factor for sponsoring this video. My first order of business was joining the wacky world of Xbox 360 Live that for some reason is still in service, and then making my avatar look like the realest gamer that ever lived. Big ass mustache, red trucker hat, 7 feet tall. It don't get any more gamer than that. I also admittedly got a little distracted and ended up changing my gamer tag to Joker Swag X, which is pretty solid in my opinion. You would think that someone would have taken that before, but apparently not. The first game I actually tried out was called Yaris, a promotional tie-in game for the Toyota Yaris. Ever wanted to know what it's like to drive the most boring car known to man? Play Yaris. This thing barely lasted a year on the marketplace before it got delisted, which makes it one of the rarest games on the console. I tried to find a multiplayer match and, pretty unsurprisingly, nobody was playing. There are 8 billion people on this planet, and only one of them wants to play the delisted Toyota Yaris game from 2007. I spawned into a solo session and pretty quickly found out why exactly no one was playing Yaris. It's an arcade racing game, if you can call it a racing game, where you drive a red Yaris with a giant tentacle coming out of it that shoots laser beams at random flying enemies that frankly have nothing to do with the Toyota Motor Corporation. The game drives for you and you mindlessly shoot at Space Invader tier enemies that aren't even really a threat. The best part about the game for me is that most of the enemies are up in the air, which means you'll have to aim the camera up, resulting in you, the player, being off-screen 80% of the time. Now, I am not a game designer, but if I was tasked with making a promotional game for the Toyota Yaris, I'd probably make it so that the Toyota Yaris isn't off-screen for the majority of gameplay. That's just me. It's kind of a shame this game sucks so bad because I genuinely think that the main menu UI is some pretty decent late 2000s graphic design, but all the charm falls apart once you actually get into the game and realize that 1, it sucks, and that 2, you're gonna be fighting luchadors and toasters and shit for the next couple hours. As for why this game got delisted, I think the easy answer is licensing issues, but I think it's because Toyota didn't want to be associated with what is probably the worst game ever made. The next game I tried out was World Gone Sour, the official platformer of Sour Patch Kids candy. The strange thing about this one is that it was hard delisted from the marketplace, meaning even if you bought it in the past, it's still impossible to download today, and attempting to do so will just result in this weird error message. Luckily, my good buddy JTag just happened to have a copy. And yes, his legal name is JTag, and that's totally normal. He's like a hip-hop kind of guy, that's why he's called JTag. The game takes place in Sour Patch Kid world, or something, where every Sour Patch Kid has a lifelong dream of getting eaten by a big fat guy. We play as a green Sour Patch Kid fresh out of the factory, who is moments away from getting eaten by a certified public accountant from New Jersey, when he slips and falls and accidentally throws away his entire bag of Sour Patch Kids, with the player inside of it. That's when the game starts, and we begin our long journey to finally get eaten by a big fat man. That's the actual story of the game. I didn't make any of that up or anything. The first level takes place in a garbage can, which, by the way, it's such a bold move to open your game on the garbage can level. That opens the door for people to say some very mean things about your video game, you know? It's pretty cool, but it's mostly just short tutorials to get you acquainted with the controls. The gameplay is pretty standard side-scrolling platformer gameplay, but I'm a huge fan of this kind of level design where everything is really big and you're really small. It's like an entire game taking place inside of a Counter-Strike Rats map or something. All the small objects, or I guess big objects that make up the level, are so creatively used in so many different ways that there's pretty much no part of this game that feels like a video game level. I played this thing from front to back, and for basically every moment of that, I truly did feel like a little tiny-ass Sour Patch Kid making my way through freezers and soda machines and garbage. This game has a really unique vibe about it because it's clearly borrowing its swag from stuff like Little Big Planet and is literally about candy, so you'd think it'd be a pretty innocent game marketed towards children, but it feels a lot more like it's targeting the 2010 Xbox gamer guy crowd. If you're not sure what I mean by that, there's a narrator that babbles incoherently throughout the entire game, voiced by the old guy from The Office.
Reminds me of something I saw in your mother's bedroom drawer. Hopefully it's not creeping around here somewhere. Nice work. Or, if you prefer simplified Chinese in your little candy ears.
Pretty weird, but not as weird as the fact that this Xbox Live Arcade platformer about candy got announced via a rap music video featuring Method Man, the guy from the Wu-Tang Clan.
I can't put the actual rap song in the video because it's copyright, but all you need to know is it's Method Man talking about the little Sour Patch guys, and he's going, "Yo, eat 'em up. You better eat 'em up." That's really all you're missing.
I can't stress enough how weird it is that we can even call digital-only video games rare, but this is probably one of the rarest commercially released digital games ever. It's got to the point where people are posting about it on the Lost Media subreddit, and even going as far as to email Sour Patch Kids themselves to ask about it. I don't think this is Lost Media, but if it is, I guess I found it. Was pretty easy. I just kind of typed it in on Google and it came up. World Gone Sour ended up being a pretty phenomenal game. It's easily one of the best promotional platformers for a multi-billion-dollar corporation that I've ever played. Second only to Astro's Playroom and Cool Spot. It's just a shame that so many talented people all worked together on this big project and made something that is not only worth playing, but actually pretty damn good, only to have it wiped off the face of the earth a few short years later for basically no reason. With that said, as enjoyable of an experience as World Gone Sour is, nothing is more fun than knowing that the internet somehow almost lost a video game that features both the old guy from The Office and 1/10 of the Wu-Tang Clan. Also, you can press a button and make your guy go like this. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. It's the best game ever. Next up, I tried a game that is most famous because it came free with your f***ing Xbox. Uno for the Xbox 360 was released sometime around 2006 and got delisted around 2014. It's mostly just a really simple online version of Uno, but the real reason it continues to have any sort of legacy is the fact that it allowed you to plug in an Xbox Live Vision camera and video call with people from all over the world. On paper, this was a great way for people to meet like-minded gamers and form bonds online before the mass adoption of social media. In practice, it was mostly just a bunch of old guys exposing themselves on camera while Uno was being played in the background. There's really not that much to say about the actual game itself, though. At least not for me, because I lack the patience that is required to play games that involve cards. It still works, it's still Uno, my dope-ass avatar showed up in the middle of the game, and it allowed me to stream this video to a completely empty Uno lobby. I was also able to use the camera I bought for Uno to make a brand new profile picture, which I consider to be one of the best profile pictures maybe ever made. You be the judge.
I didn't get it. I have the oldest Xbox known to man.
No, you don't. I bought mine on day one, you fucking tard.
The next game was my good old hometown of CSGO. This game actually got delisted fairly recently in the grand scheme of things, and it was only when Counter-Strike 2 came out that Valve decided to just totally pull it off the Xbox altogether. In a strange twist of fate, this is the only official, legal way to play Counter-Strike Global Offensive online nowadays, which would be awesome if it weren't for the fact that nobody is playing it. I started searching for an online game and thought I found one until I realized that the game just couldn't find a single other player and put me in a brand new server alone with a bunch of bots. I was still technically playing CSGO online in 2024 though, and anyone in the world could connect to my lobby at any moment, which, at the very least is more than what can be said about the PC version of the game these days. I'll be honest, the experience of playing Counter-Strike with an Xbox 360 controller was truly god-awful, and I don't see how anyone was able to tolerate playing this game for more than 10 minutes at a time. Still, it was just cool to see all the old maps, weapons, and player models exactly how they were when the game first launched, and I'm pretty happy that this still exists as a time capsule of the very first retail version of CSGO. Despite all of Valve's strange efforts to make sure that nobody plays CSGO online ever again, the Xbox, thankfully, never forgets. I originally planned to end this segment with a video of me hitting a sick-ass edge bug on Nuke, but I couldn't even get up the damn silo because of the stupid-ass Xbox 360 controls. Turns out this game actually sucks. I think I might be the only human being on the entire planet who remembers Special Forces Team X. This sucker was released in 2013 and pulled from the Xbox marketplace around 2016. I could write a long, detailed summary of this video game for you, but all I really need to say is that it's Gears of Team Fortress Borderlands 2. It's a pretty basic multiplayer-only cover shooter with a cel-shaded style and lots of very generic weapons, game modes, and player models to mess around with. This game is undeniably what most people would consider 7th generation slop, but I think in comparison to the modern slop of today, it's actually not so bad. There are no maps in Special Forces Team X, and instead there's one big map made up of 3 modular parts that can be voted on in the pre-game lobby. Meaning you aren't actually voting for a new map like you would in Call of Duty, you're voting for what each section of the map should be. There's supposedly over 100 combinations that can be made with this feature, and they seem to all work together pretty well. There isn't really much to say about my personal experience with Special Forces Team X, as I'm almost certain that I'm the first person to actually open this game in well over 5 years. If you happen to be a big fan of Gears of War running around empty multiplayer maps, you'd probably really enjoy this game. I'm also honored to be able to present Special Forces Team X with the Ratlobber Award for game that most looks like it belongs in the background of a movie. Marble Blast Ultra is probably one of the most well-received Xbox arcade games of all time. To put it simply, it's a 3D platformer where you play as a big marble, rolling around levels and trying to complete them as fast as possible. I only ever actually played the demo of this game back in the day, but I remember loving just how physically real and heavy the marble felt, and that divine sound of the marble rolling across the ground is something that I could never forget. This game came out in 2006 and was delisted from the marketplace in 2011, meaning there's a pretty large number of 360 players who never got to experience what I think is probably the best XBLA game to ever exist. I'm not even the biggest fan of 3D platformers, but there's just something so satisfying about being a marble and bouncing and rolling around these strangely high-resolution levels. Out of all the games I played in this video, this is the one I was expecting to actually have people playing on it, but unfortunately, despite its reputation, it too has succumbed to 7th generation multiplayer rot. Even now, there are die-hard fans of Marble Blast Ultra who are doing their best to try and save the game from being stuck on the 360, going as far as to reverse engineer the game's code to try and get it up and running on the PC. I don't know why, but for some reason I feel like Marble Blast Ultra was given the most unfair treatment out of all the games I played. It was just really, really good. Everyone who played it loved it, and even 13 years after it disappeared off the face of the earth, people will do whatever it takes just to play it again. And plus, come on, it's got marbles, it's got skins for your marbles that you can unlock, it's got balls. We all love balls, man. We all love balls. This next section of the video was supposed to be me showing off a bunch of interesting delisted Kinect games. I downloaded as many as I could find, powered on my Xbox 360, and then proceeded to have what I can only describe as the most miserable gaming experience that I have ever had. I played a handful of Kinect games during this entire process, and I'm honestly not sure a single one of them is worth discussing at length. One was a really terrible ice skating game sponsored by Red Bull that didn't offer much in terms of gameplay, but did make my estimation of Red Bull as a brand plummet as low as it could possibly go. The next was a Kinect baseball combat game, which I know sounds really awesome, called Diabolical Pitch. The controls barely worked on this one, and I was mostly just swinging my arms around while this jacked baseball player on screen threw balls at characters from Five Nights at Freddy's. This was probably the least bad out of all the Kinect games I played, but I do think I'd prefer playing probably any other game in the entire world. Also, I don't even know what the name Diabolical Pitch even means. What is that? I thought that was when kids in high school steal soap dispensers off the wall and shit and put them in their backpack. Is that not what that is? The final game was barely a video game at all. It was an FMV game called Intel Discovered, and it was made as some sort of promotion for Intel back in 2012 and was only ever on the marketplace for about a year. There was some sort of a story happening, I think, but most of the game was just forcing you to move around like an idiot while pretending to fight people on screen. It also wanted me to say a bunch of stupid action movie lines like "today was not your day" out loud into the microphone to progress, so I'd say this is probably one of the most humiliating video games ever made. The game randomly teleported me to some sort of nightclub scene with no context where I was forced to dance to a bunch of bad music. In the middle of flailing my arms around like a dumbass, I slowly began to realize that the song playing in the background was a remix of Party Rock Anthem by LMFAO, and that Red Foo of LMFAO was going to be hosting the rest of the game.
Every day I'm shuffling. Every day I'm shuffling.
First, you humiliate me by forcing me to dance to LMFAO remixes in my own home, and then you show me Red Foo doing whatever this is and expect me to just take it. I don't think so. I had never actually used a Kinect before recording this video, and I don't think anyone should use a Kinect for anything ever again. After actually sitting down with a Kinect for an hour or two, I think I can confidently say that this is probably one of the worst things ever created by man, and that it'd be beneficial to society as a whole if these games stayed delisted forever. Thanks. I decided I would end my little Xbox trip by playing some indie games, which are easily the most interesting genre of Xbox game to me, and the ones I probably have the most nostalgia for. Considering just how many indie games were released, it's pretty hard to find information about which ones specifically got delisted, but I've done my best to find ones that are considered lost and can't be played anywhere else but the Xbox 360. The first game I tried out was Avatar Fart. Eventually I farted too much and the screen filled up with fart and the consoles just started to completely break down and genuinely run at like 2 FPS. At least now no one can accuse me of nostalgia baiting, because I don't think a human in the world has nostalgia for Avatar Fart. Next up was a genuinely interesting one that I had never seen before called Avatar Adventurers Online. This one's interesting because it's an MMO, which is a pretty huge undertaking for an Xbox indie developer to take on. I started up a new game which seemed to connect me to the main server that was somehow still online 12 years later, and began my journey as Joker Swag X. In a world overrun by ferocious beasts, your adventure begins as you stumble across a fellow adventurer who is in dire need of assistance. That adventurer turned out to be a guy named Dave, which personally I think is probably the lamest adventurer name probably ever, who was being attacked by a giant wasp. I began helping Dave out by entering Final Fantasy turn-based combat mode and kinda just running circles around the wasp and hitting him with my sword every now and again. This method proved effective against the wretched wasp, and after it was slain, I talked to Dave, who thanked me for my help and handed me a nice shiny wooden shield as a token of gratitude. He then magically teleported me to the starting town of this MMO, Neem Town. If he could have just magically teleported the entire time, I don't know why he didn't just do that to begin with, but I'm not here to ask questions, I guess. Neemtown had tons of NPCs with unique quests ready to be completed, so naturally I walked right past them and ran out to the starting area so I could kill a big fat chicken. I tried to use the direct message feature this MMO had to see if anyone else was online, but all that did was make the game start spamming "There are currently no other players in this world" over and over again. Luckily, I was still able to send a global message, so I decided to leave my mark just in case someone else wandered into this strange world after I did. Hello, I am the Joker. After that, I began walking in one direction so I could get a sense of how big the world was. I walked, and I walked, and I walked, and eventually I came across another town that I think was different from the first one, considering it had much higher level quests to complete and an NPC version of Colonel Sanders, the guy from Kentucky Fried Chicken. Beyond that, there really wasn't much left for me in this bizarre 2012 world, but if you like running across large open fields and you have a time machine that can specifically go back only 12 years in the past, I think you should try out Avatar Adventurers Online. Next up was Bible Trivia Avatar Edition. I started my own server of Bible Trivia Avatar Edition, which seemed to be taking place exclusively in some random guy's living room and was being hosted by just some fella.
Welcome to Bible Trivia Avatar Edition, where you can test your knowledge of biblical truths. So grab your controller, get comfy, and let's get going.
Eventually the game started, and not to brag or anything, but I kinda went nuts and was able to answer basically every question that was thrown my way, earning me a massive 4 points. There really wasn't much to this game, and I don't really understand why it takes place in a random guy's living room when the entire implication is that you'd be playing it in your own living room anyways, but it was some good, fun Bible trivia. Plus, what other game console out there lets you dress up as a gamer and worship the Lord Jesus Christ? There's not many out there. I'd go as far as say there's just one, and it's called Xbox 360. Finally, I'd like to talk about what just might be the most controversial Xbox indie game of all time. Fortress Craft. Stick with me on this one. It's gonna be cool. I promise. On the surface, Fortress Craft is just an innocent Minecraft clone. It came out a full year before the Xbox version of Minecraft was even announced, and was just good enough to satiate console gamers who assumed Minecraft would never come to the Xbox. From day one, it was one of the most talked about Xbox indie games of all time, which mostly had to do with the fact that it was easily the most feature-complete Minecraft clone on the market thus far. So what could possibly be so controversial about this? Well, the creator of Fortress Craft decided he didn't really want to be a public figure, and that his game was maybe getting a little too popular for him to handle, so he decided to have someone else speak on his behalf as the official public relations representative of Fortress Craft. Now, he could have chosen anyone to do this. Literally anyone in the entire world, but he decided that the best man for the job was DJ Keemstar. 12-year-olds who play Xbox can't read and just assume that Keemstar was the sole developer of the game, a title he, for some reason, decided to lean into. What happened after that is a little bit disputed, but from what I was able to piece together, a Machinima employee, during an interview with Notch, the creator of Minecraft, brought up Fortress Craft and essentially just told Notch that it sucked and that it was a total ripoff, prompting Keemstar to declare nuclear war on Minecraft, Machinima, and Notch himself in defense of Fortress Craft.
Alright, I gotta set the record straight. Something is really pissing me off. These little f***ing fanboys at Machinima Realm, yeah, you at Machinima Realm that work there, alright, talk shit about my game, Fortress Craft, saying that it's a ripoff and that Fortress Craft could go suck a Don't talk shit about me and my game, or I'm gonna talk shit about your whole damn crew and bring you down to your knees where you can actually suck a
This made people pretty angry and ignited some heated debates about whether or not Fortress Craft, the Xbox Live indie game, was better than Minecraft. It got so out of hand that at one point a Minecraft versus Fortress Craft rap battle was uploaded in early 2011 to settle the beef once and for all.
If you like the cool things, if you enjoy mining, tell me which game you'd rather spend your time in. Fortress Craft, Minecraft, Fortress Craft, Minecraft. I'm down to find some diamonds wherever shall I find them. What up? It's Bryce side.
It's hard to say who won the rap battle, but we can definitively say who won the war, because shortly after Keemstar's rant, Machinima deleted the Notch interview, apologized to Keemstar, and vowed to never disrespect the good name of Fortress Craft ever again. After that, Fortress Craft went on to be one of the best-selling Xbox indie games of all time, with its legacy being forever cemented as that one Minecraft clone that I think maybe Keemstar made or something.
This ain't about me. This is about the console gamer. This is about Xbox.
Anyways, a year later, Minecraft came out for the Xbox 360, and none of this mattered at all. So with that very important historical context, the only thing left to do was to join an empty server and explore the very eerie world of Fortress Craft. There really wasn't a whole lot that made this game unique in comparison to Minecraft, but I guess being able to use your Xbox avatar is kinda cool. It has the infinitely generating world that Minecraft is known for, but the entire UI is just really confusing, and by default you spawn in with a bunch of random-ass gadgets like Robocop, and I honestly couldn't even tell you what half of them do. I started to work on a house, which seems to be just about the only thing to do in Fortress Craft, when I noticed a small man watching me out of the corner of my eye. I wasn't familiar enough with the game to know if this was another player or just some strange mob that roamed the world, but I figured I'd run after him because I was either about to make a new friend or have a multi-million-dollar ARG series on my hands. I eventually caught up to the guy, but the second I was about to reach him, he suddenly disappeared from reality and left only a plume of black smoke where he once stood. I honestly had no idea what it was, and I even went as far as to check the Fortress Craft wiki, only to find out that there is no mention of a human mob that runs away and turns into smoke, so I still have no idea what the hell that thing was. I tried not to focus on the fact that a literal demon was haunting my Fortress Craft server, and just decided to continue building my brick house. After I was done with my dope-ass house, I went out on a little walk, and for no reason at all, my screen started to go all staticky like I was playing Slender or something, and I was then launched halfway across the map for no reason. When I landed, I realized I was staring at none other than that same little slippery fella from earlier, and began to chase him down, determined to catch him and hopefully execute him for being a no-good prankster. He yet again disappeared into a cloud of black smoke, but this time, for whatever reason, he bled from his face shortly before disappearing. Frankly, I still have no idea why any of that happened, but I'm just glad it distracted me so much that I didn't have to subject myself to actually playing Fortress Craft, because this game is kinda not that good. If you want my personal theory on what happened, I propose that what I saw was the ghost of 2011 DJ Keemstar, and that he's trying to communicate with me in some way to tell me that modern Keemstar is actually an evil imposter who trapped his spirit inside of an old Xbox 360 game, where he will live out the rest of his dark days. Or it's just some stupid Easter egg that the developers added after everyone stopped playing their game. It's hard to say. I've admittedly been joking around for the majority of this video's runtime, but it is genuinely sad that so many of these games have just been totally abandoned, and Microsoft has made zero effort to try and salvage them. I understand the arcade games that have issues with licensing and whatnot, but I can't help but think it's maybe a little unfair that all those indie games that people spent hours working on are now just totally lost in the void, and you have to resort to nefarious methods to even hope to access them. A lot of these games rely on an internet connection to even work, so once the 360 servers are finally down, it'll just be impossible to play half the stuff I showed off in this video. But anyways, that's all I really have to say. I'd like to quickly give a shout out to nfinite.live before I go. That was the stealth server I was using throughout this entire video, and it was super easy to get up and running and worked totally flawlessly the entire time. It's such a great service, and I don't think I could have made this video without it. If you made it this far, I truly appreciate you watching this video that is admittedly a little tiny bit different from the Gary's Mod videos that I usually make, but I did mention Counter-Strike in this video, which is as a source game, so this is still a source video. This is a source video. But yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching. I've been Ratlobber. Peace.
Can't get my mind out of those memories. Now time to tell them to take my dream. Stay